everybody, Simon from MTB-Mag here. A new pump track just showed up right in our backyard here, and we figured it'd be a good opportunity to show you all some tips about riding one. So what is a pump track? A pump track is essentially a bunch of rollers and berms that link together, and the idea is to go around it in circles using only your energy pumping the rollers to gain speed, and the goal is to make it around without having to pedal. So how do you do that? Well, the first step is to learn how to pump a roller, and we'll take a closer look at that now. This is what a roller looks like. You've probably seen one before, but essentially what you want to do is when you reach the peak of it, you want to be pulling up. Not lifting your wheel off the ground, but just lightly pulling up. Then once you start coming over to the other side, you want to do the opposite, and you want to push down with your elbows through your hands. And what that does is it propels your bike forward into the next one. And after you repeat that process through a section of rollers, you start to gain momentum. So to expand on what to do in rollers, you don't want to just use your arms. So though you're pulling up with your arms on the way up, you want to push through with your hips and push through with your feet. That'll keep your back wheel having pressure on the ground, and it will push you over the top. Once you get to the other side, you want to push down with your arms, but you also want to keep that pressure low, and it'll keep your bike on the ground. Once you get going fast, if you're not pushing through with your whole body, your tire might even want to lift off the ground, and that's something that you don't want to happen. So as far as bike setup goes, this is something that could be really important. You could potentially ride a pump track on any bike, and I'd urge you to do so. Some people only have one bike, and that's totally fine, but there is some things that you can keep in mind that will make your bike better suited to ride a pump track with. So first of all, you want your seat to be low. With a low seat, it enables you to get your body lower over the bike and your center of gravity lower. What that does is it gives you a higher chance of pumping those rollers with more power when your body and your hips are lower. If your seat's high, you can't get that low. Also, make sure you have flat pedals on. Unless you're really confident riding clipless, you want to be able to take your foot off, especially if you're not super comfortable going around corners really fast. If you were to start tipping over and you were clipped in, it could be pretty bad. The other thing you want to do is you want to remember to stay standing. You don't want to sit down on your seat. You want to keep your cranks nice and level, because going through the rollers and around corners with one crank up and one crank down oftentimes will cause your pedal to catch and potentially become a really bad crash. The other thing, you want your tires to be pumped up. Sometimes trail pressure is not quite enough for a pump track. Your tire will want to roll in the corners, especially if it's a pump track that has a cement-like surface like this one. So you're going to want to have higher pressure in your tires. In this bike, I have 40 PSI. You could go a little bit less than that, but just make sure that they're not super soft. So another thing you want to pay attention to is when you get to the berms, you want to hold a line that's consistent through the whole corner. So you don't want to start high and end up at the bottom, and you don't want to start at the beginning of the berm low and end up high where you're almost going to go over the top of it. So the key is when you enter the berm, stay right in the middle, keep your eyes focused on where you want to end up, and keep a consistent line throughout the middle rather than starting low, and oftentimes people end up high. At that point, you have a tendency to lose speed, and then people get scared and you start to tip over. But if you stay right in the middle, your momentum will continue forward and you won't end up crashing. So oftentimes at pump tracks, other than just rollers, you'll see a couple of small jumps added in. Usually they don't have a gap in them and you can roll over them if you'd like to, but they're a fun place to practice jumping. If you want to get some tips on how to hit a jump, click on this video right here. So once you get the basics dialed in, the next step to improve speed through the pump track is possibly manualing through two rollers, which essentially means once you get your front wheel over the first one, you lift it off the ground, and only your back wheel makes contact until your front tire makes it over the second roller. This increases your momentum even more so than pumping, and will keep you going really fast through the pump track. So I'll show you an example of that now. All right, well, I hope you learned something today. In no time, you'll be hitting a pump track like a pro. Don't forget to wear your helmet, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel right here. Thanks for watching.